Really useful for me, seeing as I'm fairly new as well, it'd be really useful if we could sort of just go around the table and introduce ourselves and sort of say kind of who you are and what area of the organisation you're from. Does that work? Mm-hmm. Where do we want to start?
You get the sort of same answer whichever end you start, because we're both in property.
Do you both have the same name?
No, we don't have the same name.
I do share my name with many other people in council.
Okay.
I'm Colin Jackson.
Hi, Colin.
And I'm a senior design manager, architect by training, in property.
Okay, great. And how long have you been with the council, Colin?
25 years.
Okay. Very good.
I'm Camilla Gibson. I work in adults health and care, and I am in quality and inclusion manager there.
Okay.
And I don't actually know. Is it 8-9 years? I think it was 2009 I started.
Okay.
So thereabouts.
Yeah, great.
Yes, for the recording, I should introduce myself.
Yes.
And I'm Richard McCann, the guest speaker here today, and presentation skills coach as well.
Yeah. I'm, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jo Boxer. I joined Hampshire County Council about 3 months ago now, in a role which is specifically around the Hampshire Leaders Network and helping to bring the network together, creating opportunities for you guys as leaders to come together, this being the first one that I've been involved with, but actually enabling you guys to have that, continue to have that challenge, but also to kind of get us to close that learning doing gap. So many of you have been on TRP or Firefly or other leadership development pieces, and there's just that bit about, so how do we share that learning, and then how do we start to do things differently across the council because of that learning.
I'm Frances Martin. I'm an Assistant Director in Economy, Transport and Environment Department, and I've been here for about 4.5 years now, this time round. I was here previously about 12 years ago.
And came back?
Came back, yeah. Very different place, actually.
Okay.
And just, I was on the Transformational Leadership Programme, have a keen interest in this sort of subject matter.
Great.
So I thought I'd join in today.
Perfect, very good.
I'm Caroline Jones, and I'm Project Coordinator for the Hampshire Leaders Network, and I'm supporting Jo with developing the network and actually getting a programme together.
Great, thank you.
I'm Nikki Griffiths. I'm Head of OD and Workforce Development for Adults Health and Care, nurse midwife by profession, and kind of come in, so I've also done TLP with Andy, and again it's that embedding. I think it's the bit of the learning cycle that we really don't use. We don't see people being change ready or know why they need to learn, and that was, I think, really key. There has to be that moment where people know why they need to learn. We can teach them the stuff, but then how do we help them to make that happen and sustain it and feel confident about it?
Andy Howard, mechanical electrical team leader in property services, dealing with capital projects on schools, new builds and other portfolio properties. Been with the council 23 years now, not with Hampshire but with Southampton as well. And previously, before that, about 14 years of private practice as well.
Okay. Great, thank you. And I think, Nikki, picking up on what you said, that there's this piece around actually, you go into a classroom environment, and Richard, for your benefit, there are many development programmes that have happened across the council and very committed to developing and challenging leaders. But actually it's that, so how do we then take that classroom learning and make sure that across that we're sharing, but also applying that on an ongoing basis. So I guess where I kind of wanted to start with this discussion is really just hearing from you guys about, the questions that we were talking about earlier in terms of, so what have you taken away from what you've heard today? What do you think is most pertinent? What do you think is most relevant to the challenges? And trying to apply what we've heard to the challenges that you guys are facing on a day-to-day basis. Does anybody want to start that conversation?
So,
Frances, do you want to go first?
I was just, it was quite interesting for me. I think not everyone has such a compelling story to tell with such a huge amount of adversity to overcome. And I think it's really interesting the difference between yourself and where you are today and your sister's story. So I'm interested in about what's innate in you in terms of positivity, and what can you learn and bring out for people in terms of being positive and that I can do attitude. And you said in your presentation about people putting up false prison walls around themselves. And I see that so often. And how can you help people? How can we as leaders in the organisation help others to knock down those prison walls and see the opportunities that are there for everybody to have access to, rather than just a few? And I think those are the sorts of things that we can. How do we turn it into tools that we can take back into our everyday working situations and try and you did talk about exemplifying that behaviour yourself, so being positive and demonstrating that, but what other things can we do to try and bring it to life for people?
You mentioned opportunities there, and what went through my mind there was, are there opportunities for those members of the team where they can demonstrate that I can? And if there are, are they there? And if they aren't there, is it worth considering creating opportunities for them to have a go at whatever that thing is? But also, for me, they need to understand that if it doesn't go according to plan, that's fine. It's the growth mindset stuff that's out there now, WEC stuff, and that's what they're teaching in schools. It's giving them the permission to have a go at things and it not quite going according to plan, and not holding it against them. I suppose. And I think there's some of that going on in your organisation already, based on the conversations outside. You are sometimes given not free rein, but entrepreneurial way of thinking and looking at things. Is that right?
Do we feel that?
I think in some areas, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's it's ever when you've got big organisations, you've got so much variance of really good setups where people are given those permissions, and obviously it's not just, I got an idea, I'll just go and test it out. You'll talk it through a little bit, and what have you, and you keep coming back to your manager or whoever it is that you're working with to kind of check, actually now I think we need to go this way or that way. And some places that happens, but then in other areas, I think we get quite constrained with, it needs to be written into this particular, whether it's a PIP or whatever it is, it needs to be written into some sort of mechanism that we have
process.
We have created a process because of the size of the organisation that somehow we have to keep a grip of what's going on. So it's that balance between how do we know what we're actually all working on, and how do we have enough freedom and space to have that connection with people, because you were saying around showing your own vulnerability as leaders, and I echo that, but you need to have the space to do that then, so if we're constantly running around and we're not with the people, and so it's ever a balance. And I think that's the bit that I'm really interested in, if we could try and work out, is there some what is it that we could do so we don't just hide up in our own little invented prisons.
What do other people think, Nikki?
I think there's I was reflecting, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day and saying that I feel less able. I've always been quite, if I say maverick, I don't necessarily mean that, but just do it. Just
have a go.
Let's just take a punt and see how we go, learn from that. And I've recognised that I've become less risk or more risk averse as more people kind of are interested in my space, as it were. I used to have quite a lot of autonomy around workforce. I could do stuff, just get things done. And actually, the reflection back to me was, you're overthinking. You're looking for the permissions. You're looking for things that perhaps you should do, but actually just do it, and then seek permissions along the way, as you would have done. And it was actually quite interesting just to take that out. And I think you can look at the kind of huge project and the entrepreneurial stuff, but actually what we have at any level where you have a leadership or a management function is to be able to say to people, actually, I'm not going to tell you how to do it. This is what we need to happen. Go, you know best. And I think it's about shifting that culture and exactly that. It might not go right. Ask for help. I think that was the biggest thing, the biggest message, and the thing that I've learned over the last 18 months is actually asking for help is a strength. Because, I'll give you an example. I had to do a redesign to save quite a lot of money from my team, and I apologised to my two senior managers, and I said, look, I'm really sorry, I need some help with this. because I just don't know really where to start. And they said, well, I'm glad you did, because actually you'd have got it wrong if you didn't ask, because you don't know the answers. Like, which was a bit, but actually what we came up with was really powerful, and it's probably been a really, really good change.
And it's one of those lessons that's actually, from my personal reflection of leading, it's quite hard to learn, but once you've learnt it, it's really powerful, isn't it? Because actually I think there is I have had a tendency in the past, the more pressure I've come under, the tighter I try and hold things. Just because you kind of think that you're losing a bit of, I felt I was losing a bit of sense of control. But the tighter I held on to things, actually, the less I was enabling others, the less I was empowering others. And actually that kind of asking for help and it gives other people an opportunity, actually. When you ask for help yourself, it doesn't always have to be from senior people, it can be from your peers or people in your team or whatever. Actually gives them an opportunity, doesn't it?
I don't think we are terribly good in the years that I've been here. I think I wouldn't say that we're great at that asking for help, or even taking that moment you talked about. Was it a head teacher, one of the teachers, that kind of he believed that you could give that talk? So taking that time to kind of ask, well, actually, Caroline, what's your idea? What do you think about this? What's your view on that? I think we're quite good at sort of doing it with people that are our peers or people who are seniors. Some teams, maybe I've just been unfortunate in kind of some of the areas that I've been, I don't know, but I don't think it's unique. How much do we talk to the person that's in reception and find out what is that idea, or the person who's actually cleaning the office every day, so that you don't just have that view from a very similar position, which is quite dangerous. So I think that's one of the things personally that I'll take back and sort of, it's so easy to get wrapped into your own little kind of safe little network, and even this leadership network in a way is great, but again it's, all the leaders network, and we maybe should be making more of an effort to network up and down and across, and it should be all the way round.
But isn't it up to us though to be going and asking those questions? I pick up your point. One of the things I learned really early when I was a student nurse was that the people that you learnt most from and got support from were the healthcare support workers. And if you wanted to know something about the patient, you talked to the domestics.
It's a bit like the doctor's secretary, isn't it? And the receptionist and
And everybody, everybody brings something unique. And if you've got a problem, then ask the people that are doing the job to solve it. I haven't got a clue, and I don't mind. I can maybe make stuff happen, but how would I know? I might ask questions, but and then.
So not only does it give you the help that they can give you, but how do they feel that you've asked them?
Exactly. Somebody said to me again, asking for help, when I think I shared this with Andy. Is how do you feel when somebody asks you for help? You're like, oh, it's quite nice. I can help you. Really? I don't think so. And so they said, well, why do you think that wouldn't be their reaction if you ask them for help? And I think because I saw it as a sign of weakness that I should know these things.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Andy, from your perspective?
I like this idea of using your vulnerability to motivate people, but have you ever come across a situation where your drive, and I see myself as a positive person, I'm always very resilient. I've had my 360 and all of those sort of tests, and it shows me as a resilient person, very positive, Aries. And have you ever had it where people have seen you as overconfident, and how have you dealt with that?
Interesting question.
Because that's what I am.
You're overconfident.
I'm overconfident, and
People perceive you as being.
No. What happened was when I did all my testing, part of my testing came out I was quite overconfident. And people see me as confident because I go out and go, I go, we can do this. You can do this. You can do this. But using the training that I've got now to use my own vulnerability, I've got a childhood which wasn't as bad as yours, but there are some memories that you brought back which were quite, thought-provoking during the break. But for me, it was then using that vulnerability as I know you've got issues at home or whatever, but we can work on this, and you can drive somebody forward. But how strong do you have to be in your drawing back on those memories? Because obviously you're using the vulnerability. You've used a very powerful story, but actually within that story are a number of stories, and they're kind of the childhood ones. You know, a great story. You know, in care and all of that. That's kind of the low end of it. But then you've got your sister, which is really powerful, and your mother, which is really powerful. But then your sister really overtook your mother because your sister was your soulmate as well. So there's that emotional bond was so strong. How much do you use? You know, when do you use it?
So your question is, has it almost ever backfired on me being
exactly
vulnerable?
Yeah.
I can't say that it has, not that I know of. For me personally, being in my industry, the only way that it's kind of backfired is those that are not as successful as me would try and pull me down a little bit. They who does he think he is because he's doing so well? So, but that's not
okay.
But I'm just thinking quite recently, we've just taken on an apprentice. She's one of the things that she shared in the interview was that she's quite sensitive and, you know, she needs that encouragement as well. So my vulnerability straight away to make her feel that it's okay to be like that and we can work with it. Well, that's exactly how I was, and I still am to some degree. Yeah. So I'm being vulnerable there. So then she knows that she doesn't have to hide that vulnerability, that sensitive side to her.
Yeah. It's normal.
It's okay. Yeah. And I am having to now work with her in a way, I'm having to adapt how I interact with her, knowing that I have to just, you know, not be pointing the finger at her, maybe more so than I would the average person in the street or employee. She's been vulnerable, I've been vulnerable, and we've got that relationship. Now, let's see how it all unfolds, because she's only 2 weeks in, but I think each situation has to be looked at separately, doesn't it? How far do you take it?
Yeah.
If somebody turned around to me and said, so I didn't tell her I was in care, but if she'd have said I was in care, I might say, well, yeah, I was in care as well.
You could have drawn on that experience.
So it's like picking what do I need to share with that person that's going to connect us and get a bit of mutual respect, and that we're both very similar, really. That kind of approach, I think.
So is it looking for that connection? Is that the secret?
Or spotting them, that being aware of it. And it's not rocket science, isn't it? For someone to say something and you can connect to mention it.
Yeah.
Although I'm not saying, I imagine there may be situations where it may or may not be appropriate. There's lots of things that people have dealt with, and I might not want to talk about some of the things that, in fact, some of the things that I've not shared today, that someone might disclose to me, I might not want to share that. So, but generally speaking, I think I would just look at the things that I can drop on my own experiences and share it with them. Yeah. But not just the individual, I think even to the team. Yeah. Sometimes, we wear those masks and we put those walls around. But I think I've seen it in some of my sessions that I've worked with small teams and organisations, and then the MD shares this about himself that they had no idea about, and all of a sudden they're looking at the MD going, oh, goodness me. So you're not that big, whatever name they might have called him in the past, you're actually a human being who has been through some stuff, and that kind of bonding goes on, and that's that showing his vulnerability, isn't it?
But I think there are a lot of people who aren't as comfortable with sharing. I'm really open, probably too open sometimes. And there are some people I know, and talking to people looking at their TLP final panel interviews, where you're looking at your own, reflecting on your own development, and a number of people said to me separately, in different cohorts, that's the bit I really don't like, that sharing that about me. So I think what we don't want to do is kind of set some expectation that actually you have to
everybody
give,
has to
all, because otherwise it wouldn't be. There are some people I can think that perhaps would be more uncomfortable, both for the receiver and for them. Yeah.
And that's that comfort zone piece, and we started this conversation, and welcome Roger and Peter, thank you for joining us. No, sorry, we tried to get round to everybody, but we started a little bit early because we'd finished early, but thank you anyway. What we're doing is just sort of talking a little bit about what we heard this morning, and actually what some of those takeaway messages are and how we apply them in the workplace. So, and that's coming back to your point, Francis, around that, how do we stretch and challenge people? And everybody's stretch zone or challenge zone is different, isn't it? So actually, whereas I'm probably quite like you, I'm quite open, maybe too open, occasionally say things and go, God, I wish I hadn't said that. But actually my but my challenge will be in a different area. So we all have those the different, and I guess as a leader that's about getting to know your people really well, and finding what, you know, it might be that you connect over somebody about football, or somebody else about baking, or somebody else about troubled teenagers, or, you know, it's just finding that.
I think I came across very powerfully today, Richard, about meeting people where they are. I've got a daughter with learning difficulties, and as soon as you look around you, you realise lots of people have either got family issues or personal issues. It's looking beyond particularly it's a good audience to stiff up a lip, you know. It's almost home counties, and we're not very good at emotions, but most people have got a lot going on in their lives, inside, outside, beyond work.
Yeah.
And if you can sort of give them an opportunity to share if they want to, and be human to them, and vice versa, because we all spend a lot of our hours in work, I think we all benefit from that.
Yeah.
I suppose our discussion so far has been about interpersonal relationships,
Yes.
quite close ones. And it's just a reflection, really, rather than a question. But it seems to me that the essence of our leadership challenge is to move the thinking from your amazing story of personal resilience to a story of collective resilience, and moving it from the I can to the we can. And you can interrelate with individuals, but when I'm stood up in front of a team of 120, trying to make them feel more resilient collectively, that's harder. You can obviously do it through individuals, but how do you build it across the whole, a we can attitude?
I suppose you have to put yourself almost in Richard's situation and be about yourself, so that you can't have the one-to-one dialogues in that meeting with all the individuals, but if you can show the human side of you, different bits will resonate with different people. Yes, and that's
It's that deeper connection, isn't it?
Have you, I was wondering whether, I'm sure you have, but you could tell us a bit about examples where you've worked with a team of people about we can, collective resilience.
Well, see, one I won't mention the company, but there's a company in question where we had it started out with a sales team. That's what it was. It was like presentation skills for the sales team, and then one of the leaders came into that and saw that it was far more than that. It was about that honesty about one another, and just being true to yourself and comfortable in your own skin. So then he said, I want the whole organisation to go through this, because he saw the value in that, and that, you know, collectively being true to ourselves, being vulnerable, and then the team works together. And I guess not that we did this, but an extension of that would be to share how we've dealt with those challenges openly, because we don't talk about them a lot of the time, so that we collectively understand that whatever stuff we go through, we have been through stuff before in our past, we've dealt with it, come out the other side, so we can do this. But I think it's something you need to kind of permeate, filter into everything that you do, so it's part of the culture. What that looks like is not just me talking to you. You need to go away and
work.
filter it through, don't you? So how do you do that? Is it through the podcasts? Is it a week? You know, that's for you guys to work out, but it's making it known within the whole organisation that this is what we embrace.
You're talking about values there, aren't you?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, so it's about identifying values in the overall organisation. They've done that though, haven't they? In CCBS, I think they have done.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's about the stories that people tell in an organisation. So actually, you know, my experience of organisations is they don't dwell on success and what's happened. We're always looking forward to the next challenge, which is right and proper. But actually, there is a bit of, gosh, look how far we've come. Let's celebrate that success piece. But also telling some of those stories about where things haven't gone quite according to plan, and how that was okay. So it's about the stories that are told across the organisation, and who we, in front of those 120 people, what's being said and who we're putting up as, you know, role models in inverted commas, and how we work together, those interconnections across that 120.
I think the stories you were saying, Richard, were, you know, it's almost like you had a really dark point and then something good came out of it, and then happened again and something even better came out of it, and it was a constant, you know, it was up and down, but, you know, 2 steps forward and then 3 steps forward and 5 steps forward. And what we don't necessarily do very well as an organisation is, when we do think things don't go so well, is actually celebrate that from making you more resilient and picking up the learning from that and embedding it across the organisation. So, like you say, we look back at things that went well and things that didn't go well, we're kind of, let's move on quickly. And that, you know, from your stories, it's those things that didn't go well that that pushed you to reach even more potential.
Yeah.
So how do we embrace that?
One of the exercises that I do, I've got this other thing that I do, and I get everybody in a workbook to mark out their lives. I don't need the detail. I just want to see what it looked like on a up and down, and then say, right, and now look at each of those negative things. I show mine first, then you do yours, and say, so what came out of that? What was? And then when you like analyse your whole life, you've taken some strength from that. So then when the next thing happens, just be reminded that you'll become stronger because of this, and you'll survive. It's just taking a bit of time. I don't know how that would look. It's just to reflect on that and be reminded of the stuff you've dealt with before. That you'll be able to
survive.
You'll survive. But that takes a bit of time, doesn't it, to just take it?
You used the phrase which I scribbled down the moment. You said it challenges as gifts, which I thought was a great way of putting it.
I was talking to
You've had plenty, and every time you managed to make them into a gift, and that was your spin as you was walking down those stairs into your cell to immediately think, right, this is a chance.
Well, I didn't see that one as a gift at the time. No, seriously.
No, but your thought was it
could have been worse. Could have been three.
Yes.
In fact,
But is that your positivity being
that's a positive.
half full, not half empty?
Yeah, and for me, because I'm not very academic, it's like this. That's bad. Right, I'm looking after myself here. What can I find that's good about this? Well, it could have been worse, or at least you had 13. That's just a simple way of looking at life. That it's good for me to think, to find that little ray of sunshine, and that you don't need a book on that. You just it's just obvious.
I think that's what there is a risk there that people don't take that as being authentic. Because I had something happen to me, and I said, but you know what? We might never have had that. You know, we had 29 years. We might not have. Might never have had it. And actually, I really genuinely meant that.
Yeah.
And I can see people were like, really?
Just trying to spin it in a positive way.
And that you're just making that up. It's not really what you think. You're just saying the words. And it's actually really, that's kind of quite...
challenging, isn't it?
Yeah.
People, if you're saying something to somebody and they don't believe you, you made that from the stage. I've had it on a Facebook group I was on relatively trivially, and people weren't believing what I was saying. I thought, it's so silly, I'm going to walk away from this. And that is upsetting. I think it's a good point about marking out your life and celebrating successes, and I think as an organisation, we're not very good at that. And at ET, we had a survey to do, so I did an email to my own team sort of saying, well, look how well we've done in the last year, and listing all the bullets, because otherwise it's George Orwell's 1984, we're just into another battle, and yesterday's history. So I think it's good to look at what you've achieved. It gives you strength to go forward.
And the took that and the fact what you've dealt with. But when you do it collectively, and you don't see the detail, but you just look at the shape, they're all the same. They're all the same. You know, your share price will go up and down. It's that thing. That's what everybody's life, and it's like, all right, okay. So can you imagine as a team doing that? It's just.
But John did at the last I think it was the last leaders briefing, and I remember him saying, we've got T19, but let's just think, how many of us were here 2 years ago, and we thought we'd never get where we are now, and we are.
That's
still here.
survival alone was
And actually, just that reflection on, am I doing well with it?
Yes.
I felt people around me going,
yeah, we did.
Right.
And I think one of the practical things we can do as an organisation is use value and performance or framework or whatever that morphs into in terms of our staff development programme, which is around setting your goals, but not just about here's a task to do, you have to pave X amount of roads or deliver whatever it is. Actually, what are your personal goals? What are you as a person going to do? Where are you going to be in 5 years' time? And that thing you said, you can only start to get the steps on the journey if you know what your destination is. And if we don't clearly articulate that and get people to think about what they want and in terms of their personal development, you don't get the motivation and the willingness to kind of give more than 9 to 5. So
I agree. The VP framework isn't working properly at the moment, and I think that although you're supposed to get feedback from your manager at the end of the year, I didn't read mine until after April. Okay, that's for the whole of 2016. So for me, that doesn't work. It should be quarterly, a small 3-liner quarterly. And it should be based on, good sound mentoring practice, which you're trying to bring people up with.
You shouldn't have to wait for 3 months.
And that'll if it's something that you need to do differently, then that's what it should say. What it should say, look, we've done this at the moment, let's see if we can do it this way, right? And that might be more successful. I think sometimes the quality of feedback from officers sometimes is not what it should be, and that's what gives people motivation, is that quality feedback. So yeah, that was my little point on VP.
Is that a, and I'm trying to get down to some practical things, is that a time issue, a capability issue?
It's a capability. They haven't had the training on how to feedback. I know that because I've spent a long time looking at feedback in different facets of what I do, because I work in the outdoors, so I'm multidisciplinary across mountaineering and paddle sports and that sort of thing. And within those, you look at coaching as well. And I looked at coaching within a professional context as well, within an EMPQH, which is a head teachers programme. And then when I see certain officers' feedback, it's poor. And that's because they haven't had the training on how to feedback. They just don't know. So then they have a moan. And actually, when people have a moan at you, then that's what it does to you. You know, you just think, oh, right, I've not got it right again.
Yeah.
You know, whereas, well, why didn't you say something? And then I would have done it differently. You know, but it's about that quality feedback, really. And the VP framework doesn't allow for that, I don't think, at the moment.
Okay. And we've had some conversations, so if we bring it back to sort of the network, we've had some conversations with the working group, and Andy, you were part of that, about, and one of the things that has come out several times is about coaching and mentoring. Yeah. And actually, is that something that would be of value to develop that capability where people want to and where there's some energy to, as some kind of programme within the network? Is that something that you think would be useful?
I think we've had the conversation. But I think the quality of the conversation, whether it's just that, you know, one-off, just picking up the cue. You know, somebody might be a real throwaway, I'm really rubbish at that, and actually just asking the next question and say, wow. But I think there should be an expectation. I think the leadership network shouldn't be, as Camilla said, sort of inward looking. It actually should be, how do we get out there, and where people are interested and maybe have, you know, either experience or want to develop that, that we have a responsibility to go and support that embedding practice. So, but from a strength rather than just actually you do it by instinct, because I think that will
understanding. I mean, Richard, you picked out loads of really great strengths on motivation, and you know, sharing a bit about yourself is part of that, isn't it? Because if you share a common interest, which is genuine, then people, you can often bring them along, really, because you might have both failed at something. Right, but it doesn't mean it's a failure. It just means you've got to do it slightly differently. You know, and it's that type of feedback mechanism within the VP which would help, I think.
And I think on a very practical level, with some of that, it is saying the same thing but in a different way. It's putting it in, you know, this, you know, that was a really good speech, somebody could tell you that and you think, yeah, great, that's nice, but why was it good? You know, so tell me why it was good. Or you didn't do that very well. Well, why not? Well, be good, blah, blah, blah. You know, what was it that worked, what didn't work, so that people have got a chance of actually knowing, what was it I did right? You know, people tell you, oh yeah, no, you did a really good job. Nice. What did I do? I don't actually know. You know, sort of thing. The other word I just wanted to pick up, you said authentic lots of times. And I think, absolutely. And I think that's the danger when, as organisations, when you start thinking around some of these things, and it's good to show your vulnerability in that. Do it, but do it if you are comfortable with it and you are ready to do it, because there's nothing, it will backfire on us if you get somebody go, well, I'll share a little bit about myself, and then they really don't want to do it, and then people don't feel safe, and they clam up.
It's got to be appropriate, hasn't it?
It has to be.
I think you use the dancer, you know, the first person up on the dance floor, and then a couple of other people, and I think that's almost how we do it. Is, you know, if you're comfortable, it's about developing different ways of thinking, different behaviours. I'm always really nervous about culture change because I think that seems huge, but actually just little bits of behaviour change, you know, gradually shift you along, and I think it is that. You know, if we're really interested in that, having a different conversation.
And coaching is a massive area of study. You know, so there's a lot of stuff in there, and it's very, and some of it, once you understand it, it just has to be very subtle to the person that you're dealing with. And if you're good at it, then it works. If you're not very good at it, it sort of falls flat.
But again, I think sometimes we're guilty of saying, right, coaching is a good thing, so there, go and find yourself a coach or a mentor. there's no kind of necessarily support or structure around that says, actually, you need to be a good fit with each other and you need to get on and you need to, these are the sorts of things you should be structuring your conversations about. So, again, if we could provide some support to enable people to be effective coaches and mentors, that would be very helpful, because not everyone's naturally good
There is
at
some
that.
of that in the Firefly programme, because I'm doing some mentoring through that, and I thought, well, I think I know what mentoring is, but luckily there was a session and it was really worthwhile. I think the other good point about being leadership, I think there's a danger in Hampshire. We tend to run a sort of command and control approach to things, and we're the officers and we just tell people what to do. And that's fabulous, but we're missing the whole trick. And it comes back to your point about feedback. The people on the front line can tell you how it works, and it's engaging with them and giving them the space so they can say, this new system, it'd be much better if the button was there or something. And we're all pulling in the same direction then, and I think as an organisation we'll grow. I think hopefully with things like this.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, you get that involvement and therefore an ownership, don't you, and a buy-in, and people will willingly then go and do things.
Well, and it's probably a much more efficient way of doing it, because then you haven't got to go through masses and masses of consultation, persuasion, embedding and all that kind of thing. Actually, they want to do it.
Gives them ownership and a pride in what they're doing.
Richard, I'm wondering if I could ask you a different question. You're a motivational speaker. Almost all your audiences are receptive. You know, people have come to hear you because they're motivated to hear what you have to say. Today, the room is full of the leadership of the county, who are all motivated people, otherwise they wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Have you got some examples that you can inspire us with to how to deal with people who not just aren't motivated, but frankly just don't want to really be motivated? Because those are the toughest bits.
I could change the world.
You did put a time limit on that, didn't you? When you were up there, I heard you give a time limit, in that you said you spend time on them, but then you realise you're spending too much time on them and you might draw back a bit and you eventually might just give up on them because it's not going to change.
Yeah. And I'm talking about my family members there.
Yeah.
So like Sonia, for example, you know, I got to counselling and I kept doing that. And I kept bailing her out with money. Then I thought, well, I can't just keep doing that. She's not going to go anywhere. So she stopped doing the counselling. And then I stopped actually bailing her out with buying her food. I thought, if I keep this back, she'll just spend all the money on alcohol, and I'll just keep buying her food. So and it was really painful for me to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I just thought, for the greater good of her, I need to just do that, and as much as she's going to hate me for it. And that's what I did. Does that answer your question? How do you motivate people?
I don't think you can, because you can't be responsible for someone.
I can inspire. The motivation comes from the person, doesn't it? I can't motivate you. I can inspire you, but your motivation is from you.
Hiding behind my question was a rather ridiculous question, which was, have you found having ginger hair helpful? Okay, which is a stupid thing to say, but actually it's a dead serious question, because I think behind it, I've rarely met someone with so much
Passion for ginger hair.
passion for ginger hair, and so positive simply by nature, because your nurture has been anything but that. Yeah. So your nature has prevailed against everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
And your son appears to have picked up your nature. Yes.
Yes.
Your sisters, less so.
Correct.
They have clearly struggled. And I suppose, how do we change someone's nature as a leader if that's
And I think
not their nature?
I don't think we should dye their hair.
I suppose I meant genetically, yes?
Oh, right, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not with that, some seriousness in it, that you've sort of, you're independent-minded, you are who you are. You've been entertained us today about, being ginger for fun. Yeah. But what really that means is, I am who I am,
But isn't it an entry point, because ginger-haired people are always made fun of and are stronger because of that?
To be fair, there's a couple of reasons I mentioned the ginger hair so much. One, I've got a very dark story. So quite early on, I need to give you an opportunity to laugh, and also to see that I'm not going to keep you in this place. So it's strategic that.
Yes.
I didn't do it at the beginning of my speaking career. But the second thing is, and this is mainly when I go to speak with young people, which I don't do very often, but I've got 3 ginger kids of my own. I want ginger kids to not think it's a negative thing, which I did as a kid.
Yes.
And it still goes on, so I'm doing it for a couple of reasons.
Yes.
So, and it's just part of who I am now, and I'm not looking forward to the day my gingerness goes, because the website's got I can in orange on the website for the ginger hair. But anyway,
have to start greying it out. But I think there is a serious point, isn't there, around actually if we change our behaviour, then actually by changing our own behaviour, we do have an impact on others, and we invite them to change their behaviour towards us and towards other people. So I've always been quite amazed that when I've gone and done something differently, and the better examples are with my children, so I might bawl them out for something, but actually I might change the way I dealt with that. Actually, the reaction I get back from them is totally different to what I had before. So by changing our own behaviour, I think we shouldn't underestimate the impact that then has on other people around us, including the teams that we lead. I think if people are in a space where they won't listen, they can't listen, I think there's a bit of compassion that goes around that, because actually, there's something around, well, they're in that space potentially for a reason. That they don't want to share, or they're not willing to, or whatever. So I think we have to sort of have some kindness and compassion towards them. But actually, you can't change other people. You can only change.
And that's your point about distancing yourself from the negative influences around you. So you have control over that. You can take yourself away from the drugs or the, go sniffing, bad behaviour, whatever it is, and surround yourself with positive people. And I suppose that's the bit we can translate into the workplace, is if I'm positive, then the people around me will pick up on that and actually be more positive.
But what about the negative members of your team?
Yeah.
Do you have those people that you
Yes.
described that are not motivated and will clock on and clock off and do that's it? And how, I think the important thing is, how do you motivate those, or what do you do? You can't distance yourself from them. Or I don't know, I'm just interested in how you...
But some of that, I think, is through the coaching and your mentoring.
Yeah.
So you do it by modelling the right behaviours. You can't make an expectation that, I don't know, Nikki's, all of a sudden you have to be like this, because we can't. But you can set out the expectations in terms... I know, I'm picking on Nikki because I know Nikki, so it'll be all right. But you can set out what the expectation is, and then we have all of our different management processes to deal with if you then don't change. So that's got to have to be the way, look, this is what we're about as an organisation, as a team and whatever, and we'll give you time, we'll give you the tools, we'll do everything we can and to help you get there. If you're then going to be like that and not work with anything, well, maybe you need to sling your hook and go somewhere else. But obviously, it will be in kind of language.
I've said that to some people recently, because as an organisation, we're having to sort of change how we face the future. And I think I've got a good rapport with all the people in the team and get on and share various interests. And I've said to them, you really need to change your approach for this, because if you can't, it's not doing you any good. Because you're beating yourself up because you want to be A and we're B. So it's not saying, I want you to come with me, but if it doesn't really work for you, you need to think long and hard about if you're doing the right job.
But again, you said a 5-year plan, didn't you?
Yeah.
A 5-year plan. I mean, I think that's a great concept, and a lot of people don't think about that. And that's the point at which, there is a bit of an in there to find out why, what makes people happy at work. And let's face it, everybody comes to work for different reasons. If you're a cleaner, you might not be coming to work to move up the ladder, because you might be retiring next year. Yeah, and you might have had a bad time at home or something like that, and all you need is a cup of tea and someone to listen to you for half an hour, and that's it. That might help. So there's loads of different reasons why people are negative at work, I think.
Can I just go back to that comment where you said you really need to change? And this might be nothing, it might just be a throwaway remark there, but see, for me, if I was coaching somebody, as I do, and if I tell you, you really need to... Well, I just wouldn't use those words. I'm not saying that you do use those words. It's just a little nuance there. It's like, what I'd ask you to consider, that just a little change in wording there is how I coach people. And I'm not saying that you use that, but just in case you are...
No, that was probably...
I'd ask you to... You might want to consider... I'm doing it now. The way in which it gets... Pretty much just tweaking a little bit. That comes back to maybe that support. I'm not saying that.
And I think in any change, there's a. I think you have to set your your goal and your vision in terms of where you want to get to, and then work primarily to start with the like-minded people that get that and have an energy for it. So, I've gone out to other organisations to say, look, I'm working at Hampshire County Council, these are some things I look to do, who's had this experience before, and actually connected with somebody in Rolls-Royce, and one of the pieces of advice they gave me was just go where the energy is. So actually, you kind of set out where that vision is, you set out what you want to nudge in terms of those behaviours, and then you have some, horrible word, but some champions that actually you work with, and actually it is infectious. Yeah. It can become infectious. Now you're always going to get the 10%. But actually after a while it becomes so uncomfortable for some of them, because the 90% have now joined, have got on the train, and it becomes so uncomfortable that they either are sort of pushed to one side and their voice isn't heard so much, and I don't mean that physically pushed to one side, but their voice isn't heard and doesn't have such an impact, or they decide they want A and we've gone B, so they decide to move on, but they become less of an
and you celebrate your 90%.
And you celebrate, and they're the stories you tell, and they're the role models, and they're the. So I know that makes it sound really easy, but just you guys coming after what was 2.5 hours today puts you guys, I'm sorry, on my list of people who are particularly interested in this kind of stuff. So actually, if I need some help and support, then I might come and talk to some of you guys about, well, what are we going to do next? So it's just kind of gathering those people together. Has anybody got... Well, I do want to close in 5 minutes, because I'm aware of everybody's time, but especially Richard's time, who's been on his feet and talking to us for a while. But has anybody got anything finally they wanted to ask? Or
I suppose I wonder, if you had to give us one thing to focus on, what would it be?
It's a difficult question.
I know, it's a really difficult.
But going back to resilience, which is one of the main reasons I've been brought here, it would be going back to the story of the guy last night, and I'm sure you're doing it, but that just being there and being aware and supporting those that are going through the stresses, the things that happen in the organisation, and you're probably doing that. But
actually saying it, I guess that's what I mean, is where do we start? Because
show kindness to people.
Yeah. And they've just written a book
I always got
about
a kind of
kindness.
everyday humanity type thing, it's the actually looking people in the eye, saying good morning, goodbye, and in the open plan offices that we're now all working in, it's really easy to become lost and feel really lonely. So we don't know everybody's stories necessarily. You maybe do with your teams, but quite often you don't sit with your team. There's people that you see periodically, and for some of those people, maybe they live on their own, maybe their families live really far away, maybe they don't have lots of, who knows what's going on in their life. And it might not be appropriate to know, but you could at least just say good morning, look them in the eye. But if you go and make a cup of tea, do you want a cup of tea?
So are you saying that fundamentally the work style doesn't always work for building teams then, at the moment?
Well, I think it can. If you got a lot of the time, though, in the years that I've worked in work styles and that, you don't necessarily sit with your team. It's not always that you're physically in the same place. I don't know if I would say the work style doesn't work for that. It's just that you go, you then go and work in a drop-in centre, or you go somewhere else and whatever. But try and notice when you go to drop-in centres, you might as well be invisible, I think. And it can be really lonely and isolating. And it's that thing like when you get on the tube in London or something like that, and you're thinking, these people have got really interesting stories, but heaven forbid we should make eye contact. It's that kind of...
It's good fun though.
Yeah.
Smile at people.
It makes them feel really uncomfortable.
They don't like it.
But I think that's a really important thing though. If you look at where we're looking at more remote working, more agile working, more digitally enabled solutions, people won't be coming back, or coming back even less to a team hub. How do we keep that humanity? How do we keep that connection?
How to keep the coaching going as well. And I'm quite lucky because we always work together in the team that I'm with, and I see them every day. And some people do need a little bit of input each day. That was great yesterday. Thanks very much. I know some of my team really enjoy that sometimes. Can I just ask you a question? What or who inspires you, and why?
But my son inspires me. What I didn't tell you is my daughter's now done that at 6 as well. So I'm trying to show you that. So my children inspire me. I have a role model who's the guy that inspired me to become a speaker. You won't know him, I don't think. His name is W. Mitchell. He's my inspiration. But on a day-to-day basis, apart from my children, I don't think I have someone that inspires me. I just want to go back before I forget this thing that you brought to mind just then. I have a very stressful office. We've got things coming in all over, phone calls. So and it's like 100 mile an hour. And I told the new apprentice that this is how it is. Please don't take it personally, And I was doing that was all going on yesterday. So my PA, I could feel the tension that she was feeling as I'm throwing these things at her and this phone call. So I went over to her and just said my little like the guy last night. Are you okay? So in amongst all the I had to just step out of that and say, is it me or is it really busy? And just that little connection there. So I do appreciate this, And then back to the 100 mile an hour. But that little moment there, and that can be on the phone, can't it? In instructions and jobs. And by the way, are you okay? How are you getting through this? That little couple of seconds is the little humanity bit.
It doesn't take forever.
I think that's really important. That to me, if you do nothing else, it's just that one question: are you okay? And listen to the answer.
And are you really okay? How are you? I'm okay. Are you yeah. That little extra little bit.
I did have a reputation that I had to take tissues into my one-to-ones with my teams because I was apparently always started. How are you? I've learned not to maybe do that quite so soon.
I can cry.
Yeah, we do sometimes.
And it's okay to. Yeah. Great, thank you very much. Thank you guys for staying afterwards and being so open and honest. Richard, thank you once again for spending so much time with us today. It's been fabulous, and everybody I know has really enjoyed it. And participating in this was just a bonus that I sprung on him about 3 days ago. So, yeah. Great, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Safe journey back.